Hey, friend, welcome back to another episode of Ash to Dusk. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to check in with you just for a minute. I can't believe we're 11 days into the new year now. And this is usually the moment when real life has fully kicked back in. And let me tell you, this week has absolutely been that, from vet appointments, back to school, and chaos all around. Schedules are busy again, and you're trying to figure out how to stay consistent without already falling behind. So, wherever you're listening from right now, in your car, on a walk, folding the laundry, sitting at your desk, I just want you to take a breath with me for a second. Maybe you're in a cozy corner of your home with a robe or comfy clothes, but all right. This past week has been a full one for me. We helped one school partner open a brand new kitchen, which is really exciting and exhausting in the best kind of way. At the same time, we were supporting another district as they prepared for their administrative review. So if you're not in school nutrition programs go through reviews every so many years to stay compliant or to make sure that they're compliant. So we've had long days, a lot of decisions to make, and a lot of leadership energy. And in the middle of all that, I found myself thinking about how much mental energy we spend reacting to emails, reacting to schedules, reacting to news. And that's what really brought me to today's episode. I want to talk to you about the new dietary guidelines. I know. And here's the thing, I'm not even an expert, but I'm going to approach this through a personal growth perspective instead of a professional perspective. But I don't want to debate politics here. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, and definitely not to stir up outrage, but definitely thought provoking conversations. I want to talk about them because being in the school nutrition field for over a decade has taught me something really important. Food is political even when it shouldn't be. Food should not be political. End of story, period. I said what I said. Our guidelines and regulations come from politicians. That's just the system we operate in. And sometimes things are just out of our control. And when you work in this space long enough, you learn very quickly that you cannot attach your piece to the politics behind the policy. We just can't do it. There's no rhyme or reason. It is what it is. Food is political even when it shouldn't be. Our guidelines and regulations come from politicians. It is what it is. It's just the system that we operate in. You might not like it, I might not like it, but it is what it is. And that's why our vote is super important. And when you work in this space of school nutrition long enough, you learn very quickly that you can't attach your piece to the politics behind the policy. Because I can tell you this, when I go to Washington, D.C. almost yearly for the past 6 or 7 years to talk about school nutrition with senators and members of the House of Representatives, it's the same thing every single time. It's so frustrating, but it's important work. Each side has their own take. Each side believes they're right, and that's it. When I go speak with a Democrat, I have to change my language. When I go and speak with a Republican, I have to change my language. I have to change the perspective that we're coming at them with. So the question becomes, like, what do we do? And what can we really do about it? So here's what I've learned. We take the information, we look at the guidelines, and we decide what works for us and what doesn't, because they are guidelines, not individual dietary plans. Now, hear me out. In school nutrition, once guidelines and regulations are passed through the USDA, we have to follow them. We're not at that point yet. I'm just kind of sharing my experience. I'm coming at this as a mom and as somebody who is looking at this from just my own lens. And right now, online, I'm watching my friends and colleagues be either extremely upset or extremely happy about these new guidelines. Honestly, it has very little to do with what's actually in them. I think it has everything to do with the administration delivering them. So as you're listening, you might be feeling furious right now. You might feel relieved. You might feel skeptical. You might be like, where is she going with this? And now I've completely changed my perspective or my thoughts about Ashley. Or you might have checked out at the moment that you saw the headlines and you're like, I don't really care. But if that's you, I want you to hear this. That reaction is human. We don't experience health guidance in a vacuum anymore. We experience it through politics, headlines, social media, AI, and quite frankly, emotion. But here's the gentle challenge I want to offer you because if you know me, you know I'm always kind of challenging the status quo. I look at things through a personal growth lens and perspective and a leadership perspective. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit. Are you reacting to the content of the guidelines or are you reacting to the messenger? Now, don't get mad at first, but really ask yourself that question and sit with it for a minute. Because when the messenger overrides your ability to think clearly, you give away your power. When I first saw the new dietary guidelines, my interest actually peaked. Not because of the politics behind it. The pyramid hasn't really been a thing in years. But the way I remember it was very like compartmentalized. As a creative myself, a think outside the box person, I actually found the new version kind of clever. It tells a story, not focus on one thing, not fear this food, although it does have language if you read the guidelines it has language around ultra processed foods, and I get that, but really the picture looking at this pyramid, it's kind of like it flipped everything upside down on its head a little bit. It's about balance, but we've been talking about that for years and we know this. Protein, vegetables, fruit, whole grains. And my next thought wasn't whether I liked it or hated it. It was this. Why are people this emotional about it? I mean, at the end of the day, we are talking about food. And yes, it is a basic need and a basic right, but why are we so up in arms? Or on the flip side, super excited, okay? Are we really giving this much power away to an administration? Because here's what I know from over a decade in school nutrition. Guidelines change frequently. Some of it is science, some of it is politics, and some of it is both. But regardless of who is in office, I know enough to know this. My body needs protein, vegetables, fruits, whole grains. It's just that simple. I know this because this has been common language for a long time. I've learned it through my own health journey, and it really is just that simple. I don't need any sort of politician to tell me this, but it took me years to get in touch and in tune with what my body actually needs, and that is very different from anyone else. And this is where I want to kind of slow the conversation down for just a moment. Dietary guidelines are population level guidance. They are meant to guide systems such as schools, food programs, institutions, policies. They are generalized. Same thing with the American Heart Association and all the other associations out there. They are general guidelines for the population. They're not meant to be personalized medical advice or some sort of a perfect plan for your body or a one size fits all prescription. They're just not. And I think sometimes we are looking at this guidance as such. Their goal is to reduce risk over time across large groups of people. So when we expect them to answer deeply personal questions like, what should I eat with my medical history? Or what works for my stress level? Or what fits my life right now? Or, well, what about me? I can't eat dairy. So why, we're putting emphasis on dairy, but I can't have that. Or I have already had bypass surgery and I can't have the saturated fat. It's not meant for one person specifically. This is a general overview. So, of course, frustration makes sense because we really are always craving and looking for guidance for something. But I want you to take this back. I want you to take ownership back of this. It's not failure of the guidelines. It's not a mismatch of expectations. There's going to be things that we agree with and that we don't, but we want to take what works for us and move along with it. This idea of separating facts from fear became very real for me personally. My dilated aorta was found incidentally. The first scan said it was an aneurysm. The second scan at a different hospital said it was dilated. A third scan said it was an aneurysm again. So here I am with multiple doctors who still can't agree on what it is, right? There's like this little language difference. And what I've come to realize is that dilated aorta and a small aneurysm are very, they're so close and almost one and the same. So I had a choice. I could let the authority of doctors scare me or confuse me, or I could start thinking factually, which is something that I'm trying to do more to be able to kind of mitigate so much anxiety that I have in my life. And the fact is this: a dilated aorta and an aneurysm are not good. No matter what way you slice it, dice it, or say it, it's not good. Same thing with ultra processed foods or whatever. Both are cause for serious health risk, and I know this. So instead of spiraling and being so hyper fixated on, oh, it's not an aneurysm or it's an aneurysm, I had to stop spiraling and I had to say to myself, okay, Ashley, you know what you have to do. My lifestyle needed to change. Period. End of story. I was having panic attacks during that season, and some of that fear was valid and that anger was valid because I was also angry at the fact that how could there be so many different perspectives from the medical field on what my diagnosis should be. Rightfully so, how some of you are feeling about the dietary guidelines. But anxiety and anger do absolutely nothing for our health or our peace. Clarity does. So, whether it be new guidelines, rules, and regulations from the government telling us how to operate school nutrition, or even for my business or anything else, this is the practice I've had to adopt, and maybe it's helpful for you too. When new guidance comes out, I pause. I let the noise die down. My friends, my colleagues, everyone has an opinion, social media, but I let it die down. I give it a few days because we all know it will die down. And then I do research. I investigate. I list out the pros and the cons. And I ask myself one very simple question: what is actually changing here? Not emotionally, not politically, not who's behind the changes and what their motivation is. Okay, it's factual. What is factually changing in this guideline? That's how you take your power back. I see this play out in schools all the time. Parents and communities get very confused every time new guidelines come out. And then suddenly the food being served in schools becomes a whole thing. When California passed restrictions on red dyes, all of a sudden parents in schools across the country wanted it off the menus everywhere. Now, I understand, right? Like there's some good reasoning behind all of that, but it's always very reactive based off of headlines in the media. And I get it. I'm a mom. I want my kids to have the best, most safest food out there. And I want a lot of the chemicals out of our food. I want the plastics out of our food. I want it to just be common sense things that we all can understand. But when things shift constantly, it becomes hard to build consistency and trust. And that's kind of what happens every time new guidelines come out. And then people kind of get hyper focused on things because they're angry or they want to feel like you can control something. That's kind of what you want to do. You want to control it. And reacting to every change doesn't help anyone, especially the young generation, our kiddos, because they're watching all of us adults bicker at each other and blame other people instead of just saying, well, what really matters? And stability matters. And this is exactly why we created the I Am Wellness Edit. Every Wednesday, we share a new edit curated by registered dietitians. They're my friends, they're my colleagues, they're people that I trust and who are experts in the field. This isn't one-on-one coaching for anyone. It's not diet plans, but as a resource. Because I know firsthand that not everyone can afford to work with a dietitian. I'm fortunate to have friends and colleagues who are, and we work really well together. And when I have access to valuable information, I want to share it in a way that helps you gain clarity and take the first step toward a healthier lifestyle without overwhelm, without politics, without social media headlines, without the clickbait. These are just very simple, valuable resources that are completely free with high value just for you. And I want to leave you with this: stop giving your power and your peace away to others in your life. And that includes politicians on Capitol Hill and people on social media. You don't need to agree with everything. There's actually something very powerful in not agreeing with everything, but you also don't need to reject everything either. And there's something even more powerful about that. You just need to hone in on your self leadership. Okay, we can do this. You've got this. I want to thank you for being here with me today. Stay close. We're building some things for you very thoughtfully. But until we talk again, keep your light burning from ash to dusk.